What's up YouTube, it's your boy Casimir here, and today I got a video that's just basically me going off top of the dome. I don't know how long this is going to be. I had to actually write a script just for the sake of staying on topic when it comes to this video I want to make. But basically it's me just being fed up with this weird take that people have on Generation 1, and this kind of stemmed from the bad takes I've seen on Twitter. I mean, I've seen this on many different social media platforms, even some of it in person, but a lot of it comes from Twitter. Disclaimer before I get into this video, this video isn't to make people feel bad about not liking a certain game. This isn't about kind of sympathy for Gen 1, nor is this video made to tell you hey, Gen 1 is the best generation ever. Nothing like that. However, going into this video, I kind of want to go about it in a way that hopefully will explain things to people, and maybe they'll see it from a different perspective, because I'm 21 years old, but the first Pokemon games I ever played was Gen 1 and Gen 2 at the same time, because I had older siblings who played it. So a lot of what I'm mentioning will be coming from the perspective of people who may have actually played these older games, as well as this is kind of going to be debunking a lot of the bad takes I've seen people bring up with real world examples. So yeah, let's hop into this. Some of the fair criticisms I see people bring up about Gen 1 is that I think still holds up to this day, is that some Gen 1 designs were uninspiring. I think art is subjective, but if you feel the designs are basic even for an entry game, I'll give you that, because you can demand more from an artwork designer if they are paid to make the game, well, make the design, that is. Some of the things that people bring up is game-breaking glitches, and yes, I do agree that this is a fair criticism to be made. We'll get back into this topic in a bit, but even in 2020, in my eyes, it is unacceptable to release a game that is borderline unplayable. So we'll hop into some of the actual asinine takes that I've seen, and then we'll go into some of the more advanced takes that I've seen people bring up as criticisms to Gen 1, and we'll just go over it. So some of the asinine takes. Graphics. People mention that the graphics of Red and Blue are bad. The game was developed for the original Game Boy. Of course the graphics are incomparable to the DS, 3DS, or even the Switch. There's nothing new in the game. Newsflash, Einstein, it's the first game in the series. Everything positive and some negatives of the Pokemon franchise you see in Gen 2 through 8 derived from this game. Everything in other generations was done better. You will hope that be the case. A game made 10 plus years ago for any franchise shouldn't be better graphically than the latest title in the franchise, since technology has improved. Just like with sports or anything you do in life, you will hope your first time attempting something isn't your best records by the end of your career. Also, it's not true every generation did things better than Gen 1. Some people prefer Gen 1 soundtrack over other games. I personally enjoyed the SSN in Gen 1 over Gen 2 version. I obviously enjoyed OG Kanto over Gen 2's watered down Kanto. Even the Safari Zone was done best in Gen 1. Gen 3 couldn't compete, and Gen 4 definitely couldn't hold a candle to Kanto's Safari Zone. On top of that, Gen 1 had to cut more than half of what was originally intended to be in the game due to hardware limitations, aka the Game Boy. Many of those features appeared in later titles, or old features were properly expanded upon when the technology allowed for it. So that's an unfair knock to Gen 1 personally. A lot of the take I see are asinine takes of Pokemon being stemmed from, let's be honest, people being spoiled by latest titles, for lack of a better explanation. What I mean by this is, if your first main series Pokemon games were on the Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS, or even the Switch, you wouldn't appreciate the games that came before as much. If you're used to playing Kid Icarus Uprising or Breath of the Wild, you might think 8-bit and 16-bit graphics are ancient relics. It's not just a Pokemon thing. I know people whose first gaming experience came during the PS3 or 360 or even current gen titles with 1080p, 4K 60 FPS GTA 5 experiences on their PC. They absolutely adore GTA 5 and current gen titles, but many refuse to play older games in the franchise or praying for some super duper ultra remastered version because they aren't used to the original Xbox graphics. On the flip side, for many of the biggest franchises in the world today, like Mario, GTA, Call of Duty, Halo, NBA 2K, etc., people who are fans of those games and still play today Some would cite the older titles in the franchise to be the best in the franchise, or at least not the worst, primarily because they know comparing to today's standards is unfair, as well as they were able to appreciate the lore to the game when it first released. There's a reason why people love Super Mario 1 and 2, or Super Mario 64, GTA San Andreas, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Halo Combat Evolved, and NBA 2K10. Of course, not all of the titles I listed are the first of their franchises, but they were the games that many would say put the franchises on the map. And these games are considered very outdated by the examples provided above. The reason longtime fans love and defend these games is the same reason people defend their first games in today's generation. Off of that tirade, let's talk about some of the bigger issues people bring up. Bugs and glitches. As I stated before, in gaming, I find it unacceptable to have a game plagued with issues because it's almost stealing money from consumers. I have a strong opinion in today's world, especially because there is no excuse for this to happen. There are games made by multi-billion-dollar companies. The amount of resources companies have to create games, and even in the worst case scenario, the ability to just patch games up is available since all major platforms allow for internet connectivity. Of course, for the latter, if a game was completely broken to hell and a dozen patches later and months of disappointing day one fans, the game is much better, a studio shouldn't be praised for fixing what they most likely knew was a dumpster fire upon release. That standard line of thinking doesn't work for gaming back in the 80s and 90s, however. Consoles like the Sega Dreamcast couldn't have an Ethernet cable plugged into it, arcade cabinets didn't connect wirelessly to the internet, the Game Boy didn't give you an option to connect to the internet. So if a game came out bugged in the past, that was pretty much it, unless the devs released an updated version of the same title to replace what's currently on the shelves. On top of it, the internet isn't as big as it is today, nor as it was a decade ago. If people encountered an issue, it was most likely rumors and hearsay. There was no Twitter or YouTube for people to record and display issues in a game, so even if devs could fix an issue, they wouldn't get information reliably compared to today, where we could tag devs with clips from consoles of bugs and glitches we recorded for Twitter. However, from one-person indie dev to multi-billion-dollar companies creating games, no game is perfect and flawless without bugs or glitches. So let's stop pretending an issue in any Pokemon game is a historical first in the gaming industry. Some of the bugs and glitches people bring up, some are actually unfortunate game breaks like saves being corrupted or being stuck and unable to move. Other glitches are something that must be done intentional to cause it, as in for a group of QA testers trying the game out wouldn't discover something as obscure as the original Missing No glitch compared to 31 million players worldwide, or how you can use the walk-through wall codes to actually beat the game in under 5 minutes. The game and the assets in the game was not coded for you to walk through the walls, so how's it a fair criticism to say the game is broken if you're using a Game Shark to exploit mannerisms in the game that was not ever intended to be done that way? Again, I'm not absolving any devs for mistakes in games, but people who make these criticisms are very uninformed on topics. I did some coding in high school, and despite being terrible, I can tell you how it goes. When you code a game, you are writing it in whatever coding language that is being used. A game even on the original Game Boy will have thousands of lines of code, because almost every asset in the game had to be written into the game, like typing a paper. Whenever you decide to take a line of code out, you may get an error or debugging stating that something was invalid or it can't be booted because that one line of code was taken out and may in fact invalidate hundreds of lines of code. So now as a programmer, you might have to go back and make corrections. And this is just one line of code in an albeit extreme situation. I wish I could explain it better, but it's gotta bear with me. Now imagine taking out half of the entire video game out due to hardware limitations and going back and trying to correct that code. I don't know this for certain, but there could have been a mountain of glitches and bugs in the initial rough draft of Gen 1 post-cuts. The fact that the game was plagued with just a handful of glitches while knowing that much information is a miracle. Especially when Game Freak was not as successful as a dev team financially compared to today. No game is perfect. You can't change the opinions of people who refuse to admit they're wrong. And let's be honest, the next generation will look at the games we currently hold near and dear to our hearts and treat them with the same level of unfair criticism 15 to 20 years from now. So with that in mind, let's stop with the ill-informed takes, especially in games we won't ever truly understand, because when the next generation rise up and they start gaming, they're going to treat us with the same level of hate towards some of our favorite games to today. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. I'm probably not going to edit it because I don't feel like it. I did fumble my words, so bear with me there. Just let me know if what I bring up is fair, if I missed any valid points, or maybe you guys felt like I was being unfair with some of the debunks. Just let me know down below. Love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Of course, like I said, this isn't to make people feel bad about their opinions on Gen 1. It's to really call out those who have these opinions and they refuse to just admit that, like, hey, some of this is just an unfair criticism. Other than that, guys, I'm about to get out of here. Gates full open. I just gotta close them. So bye.